Okay. So basically, I want to show one web application, complete end-to-end use case, right? I want to save data from presentation. So I'll create one registration page. I'll create one registration page, HTML page. Okay. I will use HTML here for creating a page. So here I'll create form parameters: ID, name, email, address. Okay. So this form we will create using HTML. HTML is for creating presentation pages, particularly web page. So create a web page using HTML, and I'll write a controller class to read this. There is a class from undertow. I'll use this undertow class. Okay. Some third party providing this library. This undertow is a class. This class will help us to create a server. Using Java class, you can create a server, web server. So using this undertow, I'll set some port number. Okay. In some port number, I'll run my application something 8989. So we need to configure port number, and we need to implement one handle method. One handler we need to implement. Okay, we need to implement one handler. We need to implement it from HTTP handler. So using HTTP handler, we can implement it. Inside this HTTP handler implementation, we can use undertow. Undertow is a server, Java-based server, Java-based web server. This is Java-based web server. As a Java class, it is available. It is not a special software that you need to download and use. It's a simple web server as Java class. It is a web server as a Java class they have given. So you need to configure some port number, and you can use this as a web server. And this web server will take the request, whatever the request you submit. This web server will take that request and it will pass to your class. It will pass the same request to class. So you can read your ID here. You can read ID, and you can read name. Okay. And you can read email, and you can read address. Once after reading, you know, right, what to do. I'll write one more class. I'll write one more class. I'll write one more class. It is a student DAO. Here I'll create one method, save student, and into the save student I'll take input, int ID, string name, right, string email, comma string address. I'll take inputs here. I'll take inputs into this save method of DAO class. Okay, I'll call it as a DAO class. I'll implement save method. I'll implement a save method. Okay, I'll implement a save method with these properties. Let me remove these data types. DAO class for doing database operations, CRUD operations. So I'll do insert operation using this save method. I will use the save method for insert operation. Okay, I have save method. I have a save method for doing save operations. Now you know, right, how to do or how to handle save operations here using simple connection. Here you can open connection. Step 1, open connection. Once after opening connection, create insert statement, and that insert statement will insert your data into database. That insert will save your data into database. Here we will have a database. Here we will have an Oracle database to save the data. We'll have an Oracle database. In this Oracle database, create a table. right? We need a table. That table will have the required columns: ID, name, email, address. I'll save here under ID column, name and email and address columns. Consider here you have a table name. Okay, table name RBU student. So in this RBU student, I have columns ID, name, email, and address. So in these columns, I want to insert data. We know how to handle this. We know, right? How to create connection and insert data. So undertow will help us to read the HTML data. And once after reading this data, you can pass this data to your save method, and your save method will insert data into table. Okay. First, we need to create one HTML page. And configure undertow and read values and send values to save method and create one table in database to save it finally. Okay. So using these steps, you can able to implement end-to-end application. Let's see how to do that. Okay. Create one project, new project, create a simple Java project, RBU student management system. I created application RBU student management system. Create a Java project. Okay. And first to create your HTML page. File, registration.html. I'll create a form here. My form is having ID, name, email, address. So this is HTML page for presentation layer. Input type number on ID. I'll put here ID is ID. Using this ID, I'll read this value. Okay. So this is one text box, and again one more text box for address text area. There is a text area, rows and columns. ID, address, and this one is email, and here it is name. Okay, and input type for ID, you can take input type number. For name and email, you can take this text and text. So if you create like this, what will happen? When you open this page in any browser, right? It will show you a form. Open with web browser. See, this is how you will get your form. Address is showing little bigger, right? So let's reduce this rows to 5 and increase columns count. Okay. Okay, now we have ID, name, email, address box. And finally, we need a submit button to submit this data, right? Let's have one submit button. Input type. Submit or button, anything, right? Button or submit. Value. Register into RBU. I'll put one ID here. Submit button. Okay. When I click on the submit button, I need to read this data and I need to send it to my server. Server code not yet implemented. We will implement it. Okay. Here I'll use jQuery also. jQuery is advanced JavaScript that will help us for doing kind of validations and all. Okay, don't worry about it. Our focus is on JDBC only. Okay, I imported some jQuery libraries, something like an import in Java, right? The same way in web browsers, I'm importing some jQuery libraries. jQuery is a JavaScript framework. So using that one, we can do the validations in front end. Okay, this is not related to Java. This is different thing. Okay. Now you need to read data and you need to send it to your server. For that one, I'm implementing some Ajax calls here. So I'll run my server in 8585 port number or 8989 port number and RBU REG. This is my action. In this action, in this URL, right? In this URL, I'll put my code for reading the data. What data I need to read? This ID, name, email, address data. So when I need to read, when you click on this submit button, try to understand this code. Okay. When you click on the submit button, this ID, right? Using ID, I am recognizing when you click on it, when you click on this, when you submit a click button. So here, right? When you click on this button, when you click on that button, I have some code here. When you click on that button, I have some code here. The call will come here and it will read your ID, name, email, and address values. We are reading ID, name, and email values. Okay. So once after reading them, I'm calling to server. This is the Ajax kind of call. Okay. So this is to make call to server port. So I'm calling to this HTTP localhost 8989 server, and this is my URL. Okay, and I'll use their get method, get or post. We can use anything. And this is my data. Data I'm binding and sending it. Okay. Anyway, this is less priority. Now this data I need to read. For reading this data, right? You need to implement one class. We need to implement one class here. Okay. Create some package server. So I'll create my server class here. Undertow server. Okay. So this is my undertow server class. Undertow is a third-party library for implementing our own servers. Okay. You don't need to download special tomcat or any other servers. Undertow is a third-party library. You can directly download and utilize them. These are the undertow libraries. Undertow given by JBoss. So that's it. So now go to server and read your data. Okay, this is the server. Okay, here you can read this line. This is a main method, right? Whenever you start this main method will start the server. Undertow server, we are calling server.start. This server will start in this port number. So I want to change port number to 8989. And on localhost I want to run. And my URL is RBU REG. So what we have as a registration here, RBU REG. So using RBU REG, I'm calling my undertow server. Right? This undertow server will call this handle request method. In this handle request method, I'm reading values, name, email, address, and ID values. So till here, you don't need to worry. Your worry is only JDBC, right? We will implement a database code. So presentation created and server created. Now database logic we need to implement. So implement here a class student dev. Student dev. So here you need to implement your save, update all that operations. Public void save student. I want to save a student record. Save student ID, int ID, string name, string email, and string address. Okay, I want to do save operation here. So I want to do save operation here. You know, right, how to write class dot for name, load your driver class here. Already we have implementation, right? I'll copy similar code. So class dot for name for loading driver, driver manager dot get connection for creating connection and statement. So put these lines here. So we are loading driver and this is URL, username, password, and we created statement and we know how to insert from here. Statement dot execute update. Execute update of insert into RBU student table. We will insert values, RBU student values. So whatever ID you got from user, insert ID, comma name, email, address. As all these are strings, we need to put them under single quotes. That's it. Insert operation will execute so that your data will be inserted. Success. Okay, now I want to call this student DAO from my server class. As server is reading this data, right? ID, name, email, address, value data, reading by my server undertow HTTP handler, right? This will read. Once after reading, you need to call student DAO save student method, right? So whenever you want to call another class, right? So from undertow class, I want to call this DAO class. From this undertow class, from this handle request method, I want to call. So here you need to create object. Your student class reference you need to create, and you can call student dot save method. So whatever ID I am reading, I'll pass that ID value, name, email, address. That's it. It will save your data. So if there is any exception, you can catch that exception here. Okay, ID is an integer. It is expecting integer, right? So we need to convert string to integer dot parse int. Okay. So these are all the steps to read data from presentation page. Okay, and yeah, this is my undertow server. Undertow using this action. Whenever you get the request from that action, we are reading data and we are creating student DAO object and calling save student method. The save student method creating connections and creating statement, finally inserting data into table. So this is your table. This table need ID, name, email, address columns. So Open database. Create table. So table is created. Now run your code. So run your code. Where is your server? Start the server class. Okay, server started. Okay, this is the port number 8989 and this is the action. So same thing we have in our presentation page also. So open this presentation page in web browser. Any browser, right? You can open this in any browser. Okay. Open with so I'll open it in Google Chrome. So now register something here. Okay, one Rajesh at gmail.com. H-Y. Register it saying success. Go and check in this table. Is it really happened or not? No data. RBU students. Is that the table name? Correct, right? ID name, email address. ID name, email address. We are reading correct only. Let us run this in another mode to check. Submit this data. The request came here. See, ID 1 is coming. Rajesh coming. Email. Address also coming here. Okay. Problem I understand. Put e dot print stack trace here. And see, it will give the exception. What is that exception? RKL driver not there. We need to add RKL jar file, right? That we didn't add it. So add RKL jar file also. Add jars. Go to Spring jar file. add OJDBC 14. And now restart your server. So this is my undertow server class. This server is reading data and saving into database. Run it. Save from the UI. Again success. Go and see it in database. Now data got inserted. You can see, right? If you want to register one more student, refresh page to enter name here. Satya at gmail.com. Saying success. Check data. One more student data got inserted. Insert one more student. Register. It said success. Check one more record. So one more record also inserted. Okay, this is how you can implement simple web page application. Okay, simple web page application. Here I have web page, and in this web page I'm submitting my ID, name, email address data using simple show me source code. Okay, this is our source code that we implemented. This is how we implemented ID, name, email address, and this is the script, jQuery script. And using jQuery, on click of the submit button, we are reading data, and using Ajax, we are making call to server. This is my API URL, and there I'm using get method and sending the data. Okay, so focus less on this. Anyway, I'll send this code, right? You could able to understand. And when you submit this data, we implemented one server class. So the server class is actually running on that mentioned port number on localhost, and it will accept RBU registration, and we are calling this class. This class handle request method will be executed whenever you get the request. And here we are reading all the values and sending that values to student DAO. In the student DAO, we have save method. We are calling save method and passing ID, name, email address values. And here by opening connection and creating statement, we are inserting data. Okay, so that's all.